Vowels have a long sound, a short sound, and other sounds. They have a schwa sound, they have a silent sound, and they have an R controlled sound, which is also kind of the same rule, same umbrella as a W controlled vowel. Let me just show you some examples. Today we're going to be learning about AR that says R. So if you'll notice that A doesn't say A, and it doesn't say A, and it doesn't say So it doesn't make its long sound, doesn't make its short sound, doesn't make its schwa sound, it's making its R controlled sound. So when A is followed by an R, that A says ah. It actually sounds like a short vowel, like a short O. So AR says R when it's at the beginning and middle. Yeah. Here's some other examples. That ER, that's an R controlled vowel. All the vowels, IR, OR, UR, those all change their sound because of that R. Here's some W control vowels. It also comes, that W can also come before the vowel to change it, like WA or WO. For instance, WAD doesn't say WAD, it says WAD. That A is being altered by the W before it. WO. I'll just do this one. That O sound, it's being controlled by the W and the R. So last month when I told you, okay, we had fun with Y, but now gear up for R controlled vowels and W controlled vowels. There's a lot to learn. Okay, so if you miss a class, see if you can watch those recordings, because yeah, the more repetition, the more we stay on top of it, the easier this will be. So let's begin. Let me share my screen. So today we're going to be focusing only on that AR. Okay, so AR is the only vowel, well, the only R controlled vowel that we're going to be working on. So since we are in July now, we have had a full month of A, a full month of E, and of I, and of O, and of U, and of Y. And now, since we have had a full month of all of those vowels exclusively, a whole month of just learning about all of the different reasons why that one vowel can make so many different sounds. Since we've done that throughout the year, don't worry if this is your first or second time. I've got you. But we're going to be introducing some of those other vowels now into the rest of this year's curriculum, especially September through December. So you're going to be seeing a little of A, E, I, O, U, and R, because R and W control all of those other vowels. But if you're just brand new, don't worry, because I'm going to be reteaching or reintroducing or reminding that rule as we go, so you won't be behind. Okay, so we're doing AR today solely, and AR says R, as in car or market or art. And this is at the beginning or middle of words. Okay? Sorry for my sloppy writing. Beginning or middle of words. You might see a word that has an AR in it and that AR doesn't say R. Don't worry, we're going to get there. But it happens when AR is at the end, such as modular. Singular. You see that AR is not saying R, it's saying That's because it's at the end, and it makes a different sound when it's at the end. So we are working on the R controlled sound of the A when it's at the beginning and the middle. So our first word that we're going to do together is Barden. Barden. We have B, R. Now I'm going to have, okay, I'm going to have a different, even though we're learning this as a unit, I want you to have a line for every sound within that word, the ah and the You're learning why this says ah, and it's because there's an R after it, okay? So the ah gets its own line. Barden, b-a-r-d-e-n. Consonants, b-a-r-d-e-n. This R, we're going to learn to recognize as part of this unit. When you hear ah, and there's an R after it, that ah is going to be spelled with an A. Barden. And then the E is spelled with an E. Barden. So your word to practice is tarpen. Tarpen. T-a-r-p-e-n. Tarpen. Go ahead and put it in the Q&A when you're done. Tarpen. Oh, that's good, Lily. Tarpen. Oh, good. Tarpen. Yes, excellent. Very good. Okay, so our consonants are t, a, r, p, e, n. We can tell by this R right here that this is not going to be a regular O. It's not going to be spelled the most common way, which is an O. That's the most common way to spell A, like an octopus. But this R is our signal that it's going to have a different spelling. A before an is spelled with an A. Tarpen, and then the E is spelled with an E right there. Tarpen. Good. Okay, number 2. Sardent. Sardent. Together. S-a-r-d-e-n-t. Consonants. S-a-r-d-e-n-t. Vowels. I can tell by this R that this A is going to be spelled with an A. That's our reading hack for the day. Spelling hack. E is spelled with an E, like exit or elbow. I'm going to have a lot of E versus I in this lesson because those two are often very confusing. They're often mispronounced and misspelled in a lot of words. So I'm going to be practicing a lot. When I say and my jaw will be dropped about medium depth. Like exit, elbow, excited, excellent. When you hear that like exit, that's an E. When you hear I, my mouth is going to be up higher, more like a stretched out grin. I, itchy, igloo, inside. What's another I word? Impossible. Okay, so I'm going to have a lot of versus I practice today. So your word to try on your own is carpend. Carpend. K, spell it with a C. A-R-P-E-N-D. Carpend. Carpend. Clement, yep. Yes, very good, Lily. Yep. Good, Anne-Marie. Carpend. Excellent. Yeah, I'm having a D at the end. Make sure that you have the same number of sounds as me here. Carpend. Yeah, and thank you for spelling your K with a C. We're getting closer. Next month, we're going to have our C versus K versus CK lesson. When you're going to know when to spell, when to use each one when you're spelling. It's a little bit of a doozy of a lesson, so make sure you hit that one because once you learn it, though, it'll be locked in and you'll wonder how you never knew that before. So K, A, R, P, E, N, D. A before an is spelled with an A. exit, elbow is spelled with an E, carpend. Good. Okay, number 3, together. Tarfenty, tarfenty, t, a, r, f, e, n, t, e. Consonants, t, a, r, f, e, n, t, e. Vowels, a, the a sound before an r is spelled with an a. E, like exit or elbow, is spelled with an e. The e sound, tarfenty, at the end of a multisyllable word is spelled with a y most of the time. Okay, so your word is bartempi, and my mouth is closed in the middle. So this one right here, my mouth is open, right? My lips are apart, tarpen, but with this next word, my lips are closed in the middle. Bartempi, bartempi. B, a, r, t, e, m, p, e. Bartempi. 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 Carla, I'm going to address this, so I'm glad that you used that. Bartempi. Bartem, lips are closed, P. Bartempi. All right. So I'm having some people put an N right here before that P, but let's get there in a minute. So our consonants are B, A, R, T, E, M, P, E. It is really hard to hear, is it not, if it's an N or an M before a P? It's hard to, it's almost impossible to actually tell if it's an N or an M before a P. However, it's almost always going to be an M. If you have a P after it, it's almost always going to be an M that you hear. Just a little spelling hack. Okay, so now the A sound before an R is spelled with an A. That's our reading rule for the day. E is spelled with an E. The E sound at the end of a multisyllable word is usually spelled with a Y. This is probably an 85% of the time rule. Once in a while, you're going to get an IE at the end, but not very often. Extremely rarely will you get an IE at the end. Sometimes in names, but names, they follow their own rules. They don't follow any spelling patterns. They just do whatever the parents wanted. So when you hear the E sound, the long E sound at the end of a word, your most educated assumption on the spelling will be an E, a Y, right here, a Y. I also had a question in the Q&A. How come CH says K sometimes? It actually says 3 different things. It can say ch like chore. It can say K like chorus. Or it can say sh like Chevrolet. This is English. This is Greek. And this is of French origin. So it just depends on the language of origin of the word. Excellent question. Okay. Next, you ready to kick it up a notch? Because I have a lot of really hard ones for you today. Oh no, we only have 5 more minutes. How hard do you want to go? Do you want my hardest one? Why don't we do that? Let's do the hardest one. If you don't want to do it, don't. Just put your pencil down and learn. Just have this be a listening word. If you want to try the hardest one I have, let's do it. Pepistarmy. Pepistarmy. P-E-P-I-S-T-A-R-M-E. That's a doozy, isn't it? Pepistarmy. 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 Oh, you're right, Fatima. Pepistormy. You're welcome. Yeah, you don't do it if you don't want to. Very good. Those that are coming in, I love. You know what part I love. You're like, yeah, I got that part. I got that part. And you know what part I'm talking about. Good job. Pepistormy. Pep star starmy. Star. Okay, consonants. P, p, s, t, e. So far, so good. Pep, e. Okay, We're going to start with the most common spelling, e. However, e cannot say in this spot because there's a vowel in the next one or two spots. That's the tap 2 rule. That would make it to say e. I don't want it to say e. I want it to say is a short vowel sound. Short vowel sounds require 2 consonants after them. If there's not 2, make 2. Now it can say Okay? This was the part I was excited about if you got it right. I is spelled with an I. There's the difference between and I. Pep is. Now, can it say I here? Yes, for 2 reasons. The tap 2 rule, there's not a vowel in the next 1 or 2 spots. And I is allowed to say I when it's in the middle syllable, regardless of if there are 2 consonants after it or not. That's an I for, that's a rule only for I that we learned in I month if you want to go back and watch that video. And then before an R is spelled with an A. R, like art or start. Yeah. And then E at the end is usually spelled with a Y. Usually spelled with a Y. Let me just address this. Do you remember when I said AR will say at the end of words? It will say at the end of multi-syllable words. You can still have short words where AR ends in R. I mean, AR says R at the end. But in multi-syllable words, it's not accented. Because when you have more than 1 syllable, usually one of those first 2 syllables are accented. And AR, when it's not accented, doesn't pronounce R, it pronounces All right, how about one last one, a little more on the easy side. Let's do sharty. Sh-a-r-t-e. Sharty. Put that one in the chat for me. Sharty. Good job, Daryl. Oh, so close, so close. Okay, sharty. Oh, well done, my friends. Yes, very good. Sharty. Yeah. So we have our SH, A-R-T-E. Now we know that an A sound after it, with an R after it, is spelled with an A. A-R spells R. And then the E sound at the end of a multi-syllable word is usually spelled with a Y. Sharty. So today you learned that when you're spelling R as in art or dart or start, cart, I don't know why all of these have T's at the end, barbell. If you're spelling R, it's going to be spelled A-R. Now in reading class, in the next half hour, I'm going to be teaching you how to read AR, but for spelling AR, you know what to do now. When you hear that and there's an R after it, you're going to spell it with an A. Well done. Here we go. Here we go on our controlled month. I'll see you next time. Have a good weekend, my friends.